Hi everyone, welcome to this JavaScript tutorial. This time I'm going to be creating a JavaScript countdown. You may have seen this if you have watched the 2011 Google I/O conference. If you saw the countdown that they had going for that, this is along the same idea. So you can watch this and see how the countdown is created, and then you can modify it to fit your needs. I'm just going to be doing a very basic version of that. So I say a basic version of that. I'm just going to be putting out text. I'm not going to be doing any fancy animations. So I'm just going to be doing the very basic piece. I have a basic HTML page set up here, and I'm going to be adding a script in to pull in jQuery, and I'm using Google's content delivery network. Oops, let me put this on another line so that way it's easier to read, and I'm going to give it a type of text and JavaScript. Oops. Alright, so there we go. And jQuery should get loaded, and just to make sure, I'm going to do another script type text/JavaScript, and inside of this I'm going to do my normal document.ready function call. And I'm just going to alert jQuery loaded. Now I'm going to go back to my Google page and refresh, and we get jQuery loaded. So we know that jQuery is now working. I'm going to go through and I'm going to create a couple variables in JavaScript: var current date, target date, and time difference. And I'm also going to create a function called init. So this is going to be actually running our application, the code that actually initializes our application once all the configuration is done. Outside of this, I am going to set current date equal to new date, and get time is a method I'm going to be calling on that object. And I'm also going to do target date is equal to new date, and I'm going to pass in a string called December 25th, 2011, and I'm going to call it at 8 o'clock in the morning. And this is 24-hour based, so if you are trying to target, let's say 11 o'clock at night, you would have to put in 23. So I'm going to leave it at 8 for now, and I'm going to do a get time on that as well, and that'll return the values for each of those dates in a Unix style number. What is actually getting returned are the number of seconds since, I can't remember the exact date, in 1970, so it's second based, which will work really well for our application here. So with that all set up, we can actually get started on our initialize code. So we're going to create a bunch of vars set up for days, hours, minutes, and seconds. And in here, I am going to set time difference equal to target date minus current date. And what this is going to do is it's going to take the total number of seconds, since target date is larger, and subtract the current date seconds that we are when the page loads, and that'll give us the number of seconds in between our time the page loaded and the actual target event, which is December 25th, 2011 at 8 o'clock a.m. So we are also going to set up some functions for update time, and this will just handle all the updating for our day, time, or our day and time variables, we're also going to create a function called tick. And tick will be responsible for getting called every time a second passes. Oops, don't need two of those. And then we're also going to create a function called display time, which is actually going to handle outputting the information onto the screen. This will do the formatting and any other things that we need to happen. So those are our three main functions that handle the output from our application. And we're also going to create a variable called timer, which will be a set timeout. And it's going to call tick. And here you don't actually have to put in the parentheses, or it'll actually give you trouble if you do. So you just need the function name rather than the function name and the parentheses. And then we're going to pass in some time in milliseconds. So we want 1 full second, but since the value needs to be in milliseconds, we need to multiply it by 1000. So now, just to make sure this is working, I'm going to go, actually, let me do a clear timeout. And I'm going to pass in timer, so the timer event is now getting cleared and it's not going to be called anymore. This is just resource management. And then I'm also going to alert timer ticking. So now if I reload this page, and I do need to call my init function here before I get started, just so that way this function and all the code gets loaded. I didn't run into an issue with that, and I restarted the video just for that problem. So now I'm going to refresh, and after a second we should see timer ticking as we do. I'm going to come back into our application, and I'm going to take out this alert. I'm going to start plugging in some of our applications, or some of our functions that we're going to be calling. So we're going to do update time to make sure that our time variables get updated, and then we're also going to display time so that gets output to the screen. The next piece, the if time diff is greater than 0. So we're just checking if our time difference still is greater than 0. So if there still is time left in our counter. And I'm going to slow down a little bit. I just realized I'm going a little bit too fast. So I'm going to do time diff, and I'm going to subtract 1 value every time this tick happens. And then we're also going to recreate the timer variable, and we're going to set timeout and do the same call that we did last time, which is tick and then 1 full second. So that's 1 times 1000. Once this is all done, we want to give the person some kind of notification that our timer has been completed. So we're going to do an else. So if time diff is greater than 0, do this code. Otherwise, we want to modify, oh, I never even created it. We're going to modify a div with the ID of time display. And we're going to set the HTML for that to timer done with an exclamation point. And I'm going to create that right now. So down in my body, I'm going to create a div tag called with an ID equal to time display. And that is all I really need for an output right now. So if I were to save this, nothing will really happen because we're not actually, or we shouldn't really see anything happen. Whoops. Because that ticker is running in the background, but it's not actually hitting our target event, which I'm going to show you, or I'll do an example down the road where we actually do hit it. But for right now, this will be fine. So we'll go back to our code and we'll start doing some of the updates that we need, like the time update, or the update time function. So we're going to set seconds equal to, seconds equal to time diff, and then we're going to do days equal to math.floor And we're just making sure that we're rounding down to the nearest whole number. Seconds divided by 86,400. And this is the number of seconds in a day. And then we want to take that seconds variable and we want to subtract the number of days times 860,400. So we're going to convert this back into seconds. So we're going to get the number of seconds that should be shaved off when we're to remove the total number of days that will be displayed. We're going to do the same thing with hours, equal to math.floor seconds divided by 3,600. 3,600 seconds in an hour, and seconds again is going to be reduced by the number of hours we have times 3,600. The last one I'm going to do is minutes. Minutes equal to math.floor and we're going to round seconds divided by 60. Oops. And we're going to reduce by the number of minutes times 60 seconds. So now our update time function, if we run back through this, our seconds is the full collection of time that we have between the time our application is first run, or well, the current time difference, and that just shows the full amount. Once we get into this days piece, it will reduce, it'll figure out how many seconds or how many days are available in those seconds, and then it will reduce the total number of seconds by the number of days converted back into seconds. I know that really is a mouthful to explain, but that just works. If you guys need a further explanation, send me an email and I'll type it out so that way it can make a little more sense. So now, right now, we can put this all out to the screen and it should work. So if we look at our output, so we can do variable out, and we can do out is equal to days plus days. Then we're going to add a little space to it. Hours plus an hour placeholder. And then we can concatenate minutes plus minutes. And then the last thing is seconds and plus seconds. And our output text is all set up, but we really need to put it out to the screen, and we do the same thing. We'll do time display as our ID, and we're going to change the HTML to display the out text that we just created. So now if we save this and rerun our application, we should see, well, something's definitely not right with the number of days, but we do have our counter working. If I go back to the page really quick, you see our seconds being reduced. Let me take a look at my code really quick and figure out what's going on here, and then I'll jump back in here. Alright, there was a couple of things that I had forgotten about. When we use the JavaScript time piece, we actually have to divide by 1,000 because it is displayed in milliseconds. And then the last thing that I forgot to do is update our seconds piece and set that equal to math.floor seconds. So we're just going to round this down. And before what was happening was our the number of seconds was displayed with a float value, so a decimal place afterwards, and we don't really want that, so that'll take care of that. So now we have a nice timer happening. We have 8 days, 9 hours, 24 minutes, and 15 seconds, and that which is counting down until 8 a.m. on December 25th. So that piece is all set, but one of the biggest... Hi everyone. In the last section of my video, my microphone was no longer recognized by my computer. You'd hear me cut in and cut out every now and then, so I really needed to redo this last section of video. This will give me a chance to really refine what I was trying to say and make it a little bit more condensed as well. So I'm going to pick up where my last video kind of cut out. So right now, our script is actually getting the local user's time, or the local machine's time. So this is okay if we want to set up a timer for, let's say, for the local time on December 25th at 8 o'clock in the morning. But if we have a conference that we're trying to run in New York, we really need the time for that conference. If we're trying to stream it live and users around the world need to have a uniform timer, we really need to set something up for that. So that's what we're going to be doing here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a JSON call to get a JSON object, which I'm going to create in a few minutes. So we're going to use the built-in get JSON function in jQuery, and we need to target a script here, and I'm going to call it time.php. Time.php is just going to have some simple methods to call or create a JSON object. The next thing that we need to do is create a function that will be called once our JSON object is collected successfully. So I'm just going to create an inline function here, just like this, and I'm going to move this closing bracket and parenthesis right under the init function. So these variables will not get set unless this function is called successfully. And same thing with the init function. So our init function will not be called unless our JSON object is collected successfully. So I'm going to hit tab, and in this inline function that I built here, we need to have one parameter called data. The data variable is going to have our JSON object data, and we can pull that out here. So we're going to have current time, and the data object is actually going to be setting our current time for our conference, or our conference time zone. So we're going to do data.current-time. This will make a little more sense once I get into creating the JSON object in PHP. So I'm going to replace the target time with data.target-time. So our JSON piece is all set up. Really, there's nothing else that needs to be changed. So we're going to jump over to our time.php page. All that I did was create a new PHP page for this, and I am going to create a couple variables, one called current time and one for target time. Each of these variables need to have a new date time type. Oh, I got a typo here. And we give the current time, or the time that we want to target, which in this case will be now. And then we get to specify a time zone. So we create a new date time zone, and we have to pass in the time zone parameter. So we're going to do America/new_York, and that'll give us the current time that it is in New York. We're going to do something similar for the target time zone. Create new date time, and we're going to do December 25th 2011. I think I put my comma in the wrong place. At 8 o'clock in the morning. Again, we're going to create a new date time zone and specify America/new_York. Alright, and just to make sure I get these working correctly, I'm just going to echo these out for right now. So I'm going to do echo current time, append a colon, and then I'm going to append the target time. So now if I go to my page here, let's see, I got it up somewhere, time.php, oh, I get an error. Let's try this. We'll convert them to string. Oh, no. I'm just going to continue with this. So I have my comma in the wrong place. And what I need to do is I need to create a new array. And I'm going to create it as an associative array. And I'm going to do current time. And set the current time equal to current time. And I'm going to do the same thing for target time. Alright, and the last thing that I need to do is I need to echo out a JSON encode and pass in my array. And what this is going to do is going to map the PHP array to a JSON encoded object. So now if I reload my page, I should get a nicely formatted JSON object. One thing that I am missing, let's see. Yes, I forgot my formatting. So on my current time, I need to do format, and I'm going to use a Unix format type. So this should take care of that, and I should get a nicely formatted numbers here. Now, if I go back over to my original script, so I'm just going to go back to my index page, all this seems to be working correctly. If I were to come to, well, I'll switch back over. So right now what's happening is our data object, or our JSON object, is getting sent back, and current time has a value equal to whatever we set it in time.php, and target time has the same thing. So those are now getting their values from the JSON object. If we go back over to time.php, and if I were to change this to, I think, Anchorage, let me double check. Alright, I forgot the H here, so Anchorage, and I'll do the same thing for this one. So now this should not show any difference, as I don't believe it did. The one thing that I am going to change, so we have our target time set to Anchorage time, and our current time is going to be in New York time. What we should see happen in our script is the number of hours or the number of days should change. So if I hit refresh, so I double checked this. The reason why this is important is because if I were to change the location, so if I go back out to my script in my browser, we get 5 days, 9 hours, and so on. And if we change our target to be in Anchorage, so our conference is going to be held in Anchorage, and we refresh this, so our client is in New York and our conference is in Anchorage, you will see the number of hours change. But we don't want something like that. We want it to be consistent for everybody. So we have to have the two the same. So if we go back over here, change this to New York, or if we were to change this to Anchorage, and click on save, now our script is should be uniform across the board. Not quite sure why it's not working. Oh, duh, because right now it's actually. So that is our script. Hopefully you guys were able to understand what I was saying. I don't even know how many times I was interrupted. My dog keeps on getting into stuff and I have to correct her. So hopefully the video was okay. But like I was saying, if you were to change these, the values, it's really, we're still getting 13 hours is because right now Anchorage is actually a few hours behind us, so they're automatically going to have a few more hours to go before they'll actually get to 8 o'clock on December. So that is our script. That is how you create a uniform countdown for all places in the world. So be sure to check this video or finish off this video. And be sure to check out a couple of other videos I have coming up. I'm doing a couple other tutorials on PHP and object-oriented stuff, and eventually I'll get into some Zen framework, I believe. So stay tuned for those.